Okay, so for this problem, I'm going to do a table, even though we know that it does not have an inverse function. Let's see, we have y equals x squared. So I'm going to pick values for x. Now if I pick 0, I get 0. If I pick 1, I didn't write 0. If I pick 1, then I get 1 squared is 1. Now -1 for an input gives me 1. It's okay if the y values repeat for functions. It is not okay if they repeat if we're talking about one-to-one. So that right there is telling me, looks like function's okay, but it's not one-to-one. And if I go back up there where my picture is, right here I have, here's my 1, 1, and the one, -1, comma 1, and here's my horizontal line that would indicate it's not one-to-one. So horizontal line is a visual way to grab 2 points that have the same y value, which indicates not one-to-one. All right, so here, if we do a couple of more, if I plug in 2, I get 4. What else would give me 4? -2 gives me 4. So those two, I might call them troublemakers. Troublemakers for not one-to-one. If I do have the inverse, I flip the domain with the range. And that would, if I flip these two and now call this the domain and this guy the range, see, I got some x values repeating at that point. So that's why one-to-one is so important for inverses. Let's do one more thing with inverses, and it's this. If you have an inverse, if you know the function's one-to-one, then I'll talk about how to find the inverse, how to find an inverse function. Then we'll do an example, and I'm going to call inverses done after that. We'll move on to the next little topic. So this is what I have next. If a function is one-to-one, then it has an inverse. How many times have I said that? Then it has an inverse. Here's how to find the inverse. Here is how we can find the inverse. Okay, and I'm assuming that maybe they wrote the function as f of x equals something, something, something. So let's say assume that they wrote something f of x equals, now they probably wouldn't have y, but you know they have f of x equals 5x minus 7. The one we did a few minutes ago. All right, like f of x is 5x minus 7. So the first thing you do is change f of x to y. Step 1, change f of x to y. If they wrote y equals blah, 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 then you can skip step 1. Step 2. Trade the x's and the y's with each other. Trade the x's and the y's with each other. Turn every x into a y, turn every y into an x. That's the magic step. That's the one where you're trading the domain with the range. That's, put a little note there. So we are trading the domain with the range. But I don't want to stop there. Then take your equation after you've traded them and solve it for y. Solve the equation for y. And then if you had f of x notation, we'll do this. Put f with a minus 1 of x in for y. Okay, there's the steps to find an inverse. We're going to do an example.